Look, you can hear the background. Welcome back to Iron Suits, where strength wears a crown. I'm your host, Marwan Killu. Today, I'm joined by Lance, who helps people navigate the world of franchise ownerships, not by selling a dream, but by helping them find the right fit for who they are and what they want to build. Lance, good to have you here, man. Glad we
Thank
could
you.
finally make it.
I appreciate you having me.
So I thought it would be interesting to talk today about what you see sort of at the front of business ownership. Before people make the leap to buy a franchise.
I work with so many people. I've owned a lot of franchises myself. I've started my own business, and I realized there was a big gap. There are so many people. At one point, it seems in the United States, especially, 70% of people want to be their own boss. But most people stay stuck with a job, feeling like in some cases they're in a prison. They can't make a move, they don't know how to make a move, and they try all different things, whether it's trying to create their own business to start, whatever. But I try to teach people the best way is to find a great franchise, and that's where I come in. I actually work with people for free. I get paid by the brands, and my goal is to find them the right fit, a brand, a franchise that fits their budget, that fits their skills, regardless of what they've done before, that fits their lifestyle. Some people don't want to work that hard. Some people are okay with working hard, and just their personal goals and expectations. So I am essentially like a matchmaker and help people find their right fit in a business.
How many brands do you work with, roughly, give or take?
That's the crazy part today. I represent almost 900 brands in all industries and all investment levels. And guess what? Most people today still think of McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or typically fast food franchises because those are so prominent. They're on every corner in America. They're almost on every corner probably in the UK, right? Between
Yeah, for sure.
KFC and a lot of others.
KFC is not so popular now. They've
Oh,
closed down a lot of stores, but McDonald's, Domino's,
Domino's, yeah.
Papa John's are definitely on the up. Subway is around pretty much every street corner because as you know, have you been to the UK before?
I have not yet.
So we're like, if you think of America as this big, massive gulf, the UK is like tiny. So to try and find sites that are of the requirement of the franchises, like for example, Domino's, who I used to work with, required, I think it was, if my memory serves me right, it used to be like 1,000 square foot or something. There are minimum 1,000 square foot. Uh, with I don't remember the various things that they wanted, stipulations, but it can be very hard to find something like this in the UK to that specification, like especially McDonald's wise, and McDonald's and Pizza Hut restaurants. They've got to be a sort of in a industrial state in the UK. Just because those ones are out of town, they typically will have the most amount of space.
Yeah.
Subway doesn't need it. Subway can go on like a 200 square foot units, and you can knock out an old house and put the unit inside it.
Yeah. Some of the bigger restaurants, of course, they all have population requirements. There needs to be a certain amount of people living within a certain amount of kilometers or miles that could be your customers. But it is funny in the United States, especially McDonald's will go to the smallest areas as long as there's traffic. They feel like McDonald's, the Golden Arches will bring in the customers. But yes, so there's a lot of franchises that do well in the US and then just start to expand throughout the world. I'm working with clients in Australia right now.
Wow, as far as Australia.
Absolutely. And it's quite a few American brands in Australia. I was just helping a gentleman with a property management franchise out of the US he wanted to take to Australia.
The brand in Australia,
Yes,
although the American, so an American brand is going to go to Australia,
the
right?
American brand was interested in going to Australia. I mean, there's quite a few restaurant concepts in Australia from the US. You know, the US franchises, their sort of unwritten rule when they expand is they're looking for English speaking countries first. So that's why, in most cases, with proximity, they'll go to Canada because it's mostly English speaking. And then they'll go to the UK, which is, of course, the gateway to Europe, the gateway really to Asia, that way. I mean, and, and then Australia is kind of last on the list because it's so far, but at least it's still English speaking.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I know what you mean. Um, how do you usually spot, like, what's something you can usually spot in the first conversation with people that want to buy a franchise that they can't see in themselves yet?
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, when you think of how these tech billionaires started their life, Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook and Michael Dell with Dell Computers or Steve Jobs with Apple, they all started incredibly young. And when you start on your entrepreneurship journey young, the one bonus, even though you don't really have any money and you always need partners at that stage, you have no fear. Because if you lose and your business doesn't thrive and doesn't succeed, what are you left with? You're exactly in the same spot that you started. You haven't lost your house, you haven't had to file bankruptcy, nothing changes. So 100% no problem with risk. So, what I run into constantly, and it's part of the job so to speak, is I run into people that are scared of their own shadow. I don't care whether if they're 40, 50, 30. I just helped a 21-year-old get a franchise. I just helped a 29-year-old get a franchise as well. But when people are older, they all of a sudden are more concerned about risk because they have a spouse. Sometimes I work with the woman, sometimes I work with the man, sometimes I work with both. I suggest I want to work with both because if I don't work with husband and wife, there could be a problem because they're not necessarily going to communicate all of our conversations effectively and they get very anxious. So here's the reality. The reality is, I want to put people at ease that when you get into the right franchise with the right playbook, with the right processes in place, I can tell you that of my top 100 franchises that I love in all different businesses, the success rate is 90 to 95%. The failure rate is very low because the brands are very careful to only select people that they truly believe are coachable, are willing to be mentored, they have a few dollars that they can invest. And remember, the kiss of death in any business is that you run out of money before you're successful,
Hmm.
right? Imagine getting a house, you work your whole life to get into a nice house, and you
Yeah.
lose it 6 months later because you can't pay the mortgage. So the reality is that I show people how to be safe by selecting the best franchise for them that fits them where they're successful. And I have a lot of success stories of people that invested in US dollars under 250,000. There's nice financing with the US government has great financing programs through the Small Business Administration and you can invest under $250,000 and build yourself a multi-million dollar business following a playbook.
So would you say it's the common thing about people is that they have no fear? The ones that are successful have no fear.
No, I wouldn't say that exactly. Fear is good to keep us safe inherently. Fear isn't a bad thing, but it's when you're so fearful that you're stuck on the fence and not willing to make a decision is the problem. And what I educate people on, what I do more than anything, is I educate people on the franchise space to show them that this is absolutely the safest way for you to get into business ownership, especially if you're a first time business owner. Now, one of the pieces of the process that I love for people is that you will get an opportunity to speak to people just like you in the process to hear how other people have done it. So, for example, I'm working with an attorney who is very cautious. He's 50, very, very cautious. He's in process with a pretty big painting brand, indoor, outdoor, I mean, exterior, interior painting. And he loves that they have a CEO model where maybe, he can put a manager in place. He's not expected to do the painting, of course, himself. Just like it's Subway or Domino's, you're not
Hmm.
expected to make the sandwich as a franchisee or make the pizza as a franchisee, but you need to know how to do it. You need to know
Yeah,
how to
yeah.
train people. So for me, the more education and information and motivation I give people, the more comfortable they start to get. And the question then becomes, like dating when somebody gets married. Before you get married, it's a little nerve wracking. I mean, hopefully you dated a few people. You don't want to get married to the first person because how do you know that's the right person?
Yeah.
So I educate people on talking through me. I introduce people to many different brands to have conversations with. And you go through their process, and really start to get educated on the particular brand. Who's the executive team? Who are the people that are in the brand? The beautiful part of joining a franchise, when people give Tony Robbins a lot of money to join a mastermind, the
Hmm.
idea is that you're getting successful people in there. You're from all walks of life, all different businesses and industries, but you're sharing, and all of you could gain from each other. A rising tide raises all ships, as the old expression goes. Well, in a franchise, it's very similar. The difference is in a franchise, everybody's doing the exact same thing. So you really get to learn that education is really magnified because you're truly sharing best practices that
Hmm.
help the top franchise owners get to the next level. I have some franchises where franchisees are doing 20 million a year, 30 million a year, $40 million a year. Incredible. I mean,
That's good money.
absolutely incredible. But I help people. I mean, you got to start somewhere. You're a health nut. If you're training somebody to run a marathon, you're not training them to run the 26 miles at
That's
first.
true.
You're
Mm.
training them to run 5 miles,
Yeah,
and then you're training them to run 10 miles because you can't run 26 miles if you can't run 5. So
that's true.
I teach people how to build a 7-figure business, build your $1 million business. That's actually the hardest part of business ownership, is the beginning.
Yeah,
once you have
yeah. At the
ca-
beginning.
Once you have cash flow, the floodgates open up. There's opportunities galore for you.
So it's hard at the beginning. Once you start, and once you start to climb up, it becomes a lot easier because then you have the systems and the experience behind it.
It's all about establishing cash flow for yourself on your own. If you've worked a job, a career your whole life, and you're relying on somebody else to pay you, the hardest step one is, how do I not rely on a job, and how
Hmm.
do I sustain myself building my own cash flow? And once you're able to do that, your life has completely changed.
That is very true. So, when people come to you buying a franchise and they want a franchise, what do they think they're buying and what are they actually signing up for?
Well, I mean, you're signing up for a system, for a proven model, but proven, the word proven is different for different people. I joined Wingstop as a franchisee in the early days, and Wingstop was not exactly proven in those days. In fact, all franchise brands in most places in the world, but especially the US, they produce what's called a disclosure document, and they have to show you some numbers, some history, so you're educated. And by law in the United States, you're signing off that you received this document. And not that you necessarily understand it all, but that you've received it. And Wingstop in the early days when I joined had terrible numbers. But I believed in the new leadership team. And I believed this was a unique opportunity for me to get in early, establish myself, and to this day 20 years later, people still ask me for a Wingstop franchise, and I said you're too late, it's gone. It's like, I got lucky and married my second wife, my perfect wife, and it's good timing. What if she was already married at the time? I would have missed out on the opportunity. That's life. Timing is everything. But the reality is, I look, the people that are most successful in a franchise that come to me are interested in learning and listening and following a system, and they're very community minded. They like other people generally, genuinely, and those are the hallmarks of someone that can be a great franchise owner and partner. There's a lot of camaraderie in the franchise family. Like
Hmm.
when your family and you were at Domino's, there's
Yeah.
camaraderie. You can pick up the phone at any point and call another franchisee and say, I'm not happy with the new ingredient mix, the new seasoning mix that we have. Are you having problems with that? Alert corporate of the problem. And,
Hmm.
you know, the help and support within a franchise network is amazing. Do you know in the United States, 14% of franchise owners are military or military veterans.
Already.
It's a big number, and similar to the military, whether you're in the UK or the US or anywhere in the world, anybody that serves in the military understands there are systems, there's training, there's support, there's essentially a department to support you in every way, shape, or fashion. So, and then there's that community feel, the camaraderie, and that is exactly what a franchise is all about. There's an old cliche in franchising: you're in business for yourself, but not by
Hmm.
yourself.
Right. So, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of noise on the internet about acquisitions. Just
Hmm.
go buy somebody's business. So many people are retiring, and you can buy their business for $1.5 million, get financing, and take it to the next level. But number one, it's not going to be a franchise. There's a lot of people competing for those businesses. It could take you years, and you could
Yeah,
never
yeah.
get into an appropriate business. You're not going to have any support. You're betting that you're going to hold on to all that staff. And when the staff quits, you're stuck. You're all by yourself. But
Yes.
you're also betting you're smarter than the previous owner that was doing it their whole lives.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
franchise is your best.
unless it has system, unless that previous owner had systems, and you're willing to follow the same systems as he's doing, chances are you're not going to be able to get the same amount of money as as he is. So just because something is profitable doesn't mean that you go in and buy it and you get it's not a sort of a golden what should we say, like the golden cups, is that right? Is that the right
Yeah.
metaphor?
Well, I
Golden
mean, it's
cups.
not, look, it's not a gold mine that you just purchased. There's a lot of work. to take the business to the next level because you're now buying a business, you're in a lot of debt, and you're betting you're going to improve it, and you have to improve the business, otherwise it's not going to work.
What do people, when people come to you first, what's the first thing that they look at versus what you tell them is the right franchise? Do people look at the money that is going to generate first, and
Yeah.
that's the first thing they look at? And then when you meet with them, obviously, then you've got insight into their mindset and everything else. And then you're like, okay, well, no, I think that this should be your business because this one is not suitable.
So that's a great setup, and that is very similar to how I do it. The first phone call, I call it the fit finder call, is all about understanding everybody's mindset, understanding their goals, understanding their history, understanding their fears and concerns. And to be honest, I'm listening for what the pain is that they're going through right now. And I have people that tell me, I can't ever go to my son's baseball game. I keep missing the baseball games because I'm traveling or I have meetings that are late. Um, Whatever it is, it's not having a flexible schedule to fit in with your family. It's missing your kids' once in a lifetime events sometimes, and it's just missing out on life because you're stuck at a job and someone else controls you and tells you what to do. Now, don't get me wrong. It's okay to have a job. There are plenty of people that have jobs that are happy. Statistically today, throughout the world, people are not happy with their jobs. They work too hard. They feel underappreciated. But what I'm listening for in the first phone call is, what is the pain? What is upsetting these people? And how I can help them fix the issue by getting them into a business that works for them. And there's a lot of things said in those first calls that are like light bulbs to me and ideas, a lot of them. And I write notes and notes, and now I have an AI program that takes it all. But the other piece is I have an assessment. In fact, I can give you the free assessment link. Anybody can take it anywhere in the world because I work with people anywhere in the world. But the free assessment that I have, we call it the Business Builder Assessment. It's very, very good. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes. As I mentioned, it's free. It helps me understand your mindset, your skill set, your life experiences, what's really going on in your head. And you get a nice report on you. And you could take this as well. You get a nice report back on yourself. I get a nice report. And this report actually gives me some suggestions as well. But it's a good start with the first phone call because although it's a very organic process,
Mhm.
sometimes where people start is not really where they finish. People change throughout this process. The average time from the first call for somebody to get a franchise is about 120 days. So there is a process to this. I did get a gentleman a franchise in 17 days from the first phone call,
Wow.
and that was a record. And by the way, he got into an HVAC, heating and air conditioning
Hmm.
franchise. He
Yeah.
knew nothing about it. He hired a manager. He did $2.5 million US in year one, which
Wow.
was which is the record for this brand. Nobody did that much in year one on a
That's
$200,000 investment. He was very aggressive with marketing and promotion, and probably in year two, believe it or not, he's finishing now. Will probably do 4 million.
that's amazing. Yeah, it's really good.
No experience in that area. His skills that he had from the mortgage business and his university training was helpful. Anybody that's anybody that's ever managed somebody or led a team, it's not mandatory, but that's an amazing skill set to own a business. Anyone that
That's
anyone that is in leadership now or any kind of management role, same type of thing, is always a good indication of someone that can come out of the gate pretty strong. The other piece, sales. If you've never managed somebody, but you're in sales, very, very helpful skill in any franchise because
Sales is big, yeah.
everything else can truly be taught.
If you know sales, somebody told me that if you learn sales, you'll never struggle for money.
No, absolutely,
It's the one thing that AI can't do for you.
absolutely 100%.
When things don't work out with the franchisee and the franchisor, where does the mismatch normally happen? I mean, you see opportunities that look great on paper. So where does the mismatch happen? Is it the person, or is it like the
Such a great,
franchisor?
excellent question. The answer to that is a lot of times when people don't use a franchise broker like myself,
Hmm.
they make an emotional buy. So they go to Google or they go to an AI platform like ChatGPT and they're searching what's the best, especially if ChatGPT they feel know them by now because they've given enough
Oh
information.
yeah, 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 yeah.
What are the best franchises for me? Well, here's the problem. My job is safe with AI because AI has no way with 4,300 franchises. There's no way for AI to know all of the best franchises. There's no way. So it might pick off a couple of popular ones, but that does not mean until you go through the process with the brand and you talk to existing franchisees. I'll give you an example. There's a famous hair salon franchise. A friend of mine wanted to get some. Emotionally, he heard it was a great business. So I put him through the process with the brand. And he kept coming back to me after doing validation calls with successful franchise owners. And he was a sophisticated gentleman that had a great corporate job. And he said, Lance, I keep talking to all these owners and they seem happy. But when I ask them how much they've invested in these salons and what their return on investment or net profit were, I'm not happy with the numbers that I hear. And it was a consistent thing that he kept hearing. He said, what should I do? I said, run away. Let's find you something else because that's a clear red flag that you're not going to be, you've already heard the numbers. You're not
Hmm.
going to be happy. So what I tell people, number one, the mismatch typically comes from this emotional buy. It's the same way people get married. They get married, it gets there's this emotion that
Yeah.
draws you to somebody, but that doesn't mean you're a good fit with that person. There's a lot of boxes to check in a marriage, just like there's a lot of boxes to check in a business, especially in a franchise. And so what I do is I take people through that entire process. And I remind people, I have a gentleman, I mentioned a 29-year-old I helped, very successful. He never even quit his job. He kept his job that he did not like. He makes good money, but he wanted to keep his job, start a side hustle. He got
Hmm.
into a fence and railing business, invested about 200,000, got a loan, kept his job. He did over a million US, 1.1 million in year one. So happy. He never even quit his job. He hired a manager. The manager managed the process. He was involved as well. So there's a lot of ways to do it. But the way that gentleman really knew it, I showed him 5 brands for him. He talked
Hmm.
to all 5 brands, had the first phone call, had the second phone call with I think 3 brands. He eliminated 2 pretty quickly. And then he ran 3 brands to the end. And there was a point where he kept asking me, what do you think? I have these 3 brands. What do you think? I like them all, but, and I listened to his concerns and we bounced things off each other. And then finally, the the brand that I'm going to tell you, it's Top Rail Fence. Top Rail Fence was the winner, and he's very happy. He's very happy that's the brand he's selected. The top franchisee, I think, in that brand did 6 million last year. And
That's amazing.
and he did 1.1 and he's happy, and I'm sure he'll hit 2 million very soon.
It's good. How much of your job is helping people slow down? Like you talked about emotion. How much is your role sort of helping people slow down and make the right decision rather than sort of them using their emotion and ego to go and purchase that business
Another
or to
excellent
invest in that business?
another excellent question. Yes, I do make people slow down and be practical, because again, what this comes down to is how much cash do you have access to? Can we get you a loan? So we establish budget, just like buying a house. What is the budget? What are your skills? What are your goals? Because this is another thing. Your goal for owning a business could be vastly different than the next client or the next client. I mentioned an attorney earlier that's 50 years old. He was making a lot of money. He had a great income. So he has a big income to replace. So his biggest concern is, how do I replace that income? Well, the first observation from me is he no longer has that job. So he really doesn't have that income to replace. He has no income. So I explained to him that it'll take him a couple of years to get back to that income realistically. But what are your options? Are you going to wait around for another job that can kick you to the curb and get rid of you again because he was laid off? Or and his wife has a great job where she makes great money and they have some savings. So I said, what you need to do is you need to look at all of these different businesses, pick one, and start.
Yeah.
And within a short period of time, you will have nice income, not necessarily the same income, but at some point, you're going to surpass your other income. It might take 2 years. It could be 3 years. But
Yes.
here's the other thing that is fascinating to me. When people look at risk or they're concerned, I said, you don't have to be concerned about this brand. Look at its history. The brand is more concerned about you. You're the risk, because they have no idea how hard you're going to work. They have no idea. You could be lazy. People do get lazy when they get in their own business. If
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
if they're not disciplined, they don't get out of the bed in the morning all excited for the day. They
That's
take
that's
3
that's
hours
that
to start their workday.
that sets me up for the next question, which is what's the standards or behaviors that now you see the people who succeed hold versus the people who don't? So essentially, the people who succeed and the people who don't, with all being equal in terms of the franchise and the franchisor, what skills do these people have? The ones that succeed versus the ones who don't.
The most successful people have a drive, they have a competitive nature, they have this will to succeed, and typically they have a spouse that feels like the same. Business ownership is not to sit back on your heels. If you're playing sports, you're on your toes, you're pushing forward. There are going to be setbacks. You can count on setbacks in life, in business, and the best franchise owners, the best business owners are fighters. They're going to push. They're going to push the franchisor, the corporation, for even better systems and better training, more AI to help support them, and limit their staff and only have key staff needed. So even though you're in a franchise, the best franchisees tend to be a little innovative. within that franchise. But we mentioned sales. A lot of times it's salespeople. What I love about people that have any sales background is they're used to eating what they kill. They're used to going out and finding business. That's what the best franchisees are good at naturally. Because remember, at the end of the day, franchises are local businesses. It might be a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
corporation like Domino's. When you were with Domino's, it's a big corporation, but it's owned by a local business owner, you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
And
most successful ones. Funny you should say that because the most successful ones were the ones who actually went over and beyond what the franchisee would give them. So, for example, they would go out and get their teams out to do to connect with the community, to drop uh, leaflets. The guys call them leaflets or menus around the town, even though they have a company doing it. Yeah, they'll do extra.
yeah, no, but you bring up another great point. I would hire so many kids, high school kids in the restaurant business from the local high school. And then I would sponsor the high school baseball team or football team. And they put a banner up with the Wingstop or a Krispy Kreme logo. And I would support the local community. And then we'd have fundraising events at the restaurant. But it doesn't matter what franchise you have, whether it's plumbing or restaurants or hair salons, you can support your local community and being proactive. Again, I mentioned many times owning a franchise business is all about community. Not only the franchisor you're joining is like joining their community, but as an owner, you're part of your local community. And if you're not a friendly, nice person that likes people, then you need to find a partner that is, because you're not going to be successful if you're not likable. And the secret to me hiring great people is that they actually liked working with me, not necessarily for me, with me. And and I love that. And sometimes my best employees was a 17-year-old young lady that played on the soccer team, or as you would call it, the football team.
Football team. Yeah, 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 yeah. Finally, what are you personally more selective about now in your life?
Well, I'm more selective of how I spend my time. Many, many years ago when I was younger, I'm going to be 60 this year, and many years ago I didn't take vacation. I enjoyed working, but that hurt my family. And many, many years later, I take a lot of vacation. I have a career as a franchise broker. I have a podcast called the Franchise Fit Podcast. I enjoy helping and teaching people and educating people about franchise ownership, but I take a lot of vacations and I do work on vacations in exotic places and I enjoy it. And what keeps me going is helping to change lives. And but time is that one factor that I tell
You can't
everybody
get
about.
back.
Time is the only thing
You can't get back.
cannot get back. It is the most precious resource that we all have. So when I'm working with even a 29-year-old that feels like he or she wasted the first 10 years of their life, well, that's nothing compared to the 50-year-old that I'm talking to or 55-year-old that feels like I just wasted 30 years. Well, let's not
Hmm.
waste any more time. Let's get you into a business that fits you so you can create your own destiny, create your own generational wealth for your family without a cap from a job. Remember, a job stands for just over broke.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. There's nothing like having the right systems because having the right system will basically guarantee, well, systems run you basically. If you've got systems, then you're going to be able to do pretty much everything. You rinse and repeat. If you don't have systems, then you're sort of guessing what to do. That's the same in every business across the board. Awesome. Well, Lance, this has been great conversation. It's been epic. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you've had a busy week with the franchise show and meeting so many different people and doing podcasts. It's been great.
My,
I
my pleasure.
will
Thank
put
you for having me.
I will put all your details in the show notes. Where can people find you? You're on YouTube and podcast. You got your own podcast, right?
You can look up the Franchise Fit podcast, FIT. You can also, if you look at my name in the notes, Lance Graulich. You can find me. My YouTube channel is Lance Graulich, and I'm all over TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Wherever you want to connect, I'm available.
Great. Well, that's all we have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you on the next one.